And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Moonshot NFT Podcast, where I'm joined once again with my wonderful co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time anyone is listening. Hopefully someone is listening. I'm doing very well. Excited to love this time of year. Although I'm not feeling as Christmassy as I have done in previous years. I still don't know why that is, but I'm trying to get in the Christmas spirit and just can't believe that it's so close to Christmas already. And where has this year gone? Where's December gone? It's gone so fast. But all is well. All is good. And yeah, happy, looking forward to another discussion all about NFTs. One of my highlights of the week, as ever.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Yes, it is nearly Christmas here. And we are back to demystify the world of NFTs once again for all of our wonderful listeners out there. And we've got a pretty interesting topic today. It's all about a singular NFT project. An NFT project known as Nouns, or the Nouns DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, to be a little bit more specific. Now, we're going to explore this for many reasons, none more so than it's a project that has definitely already cemented itself, I think, in the history of NFTs, for its unique nature, which we're going to explore, and also because of the innovative things that it does and the sort of notoriety that it has begun to gain. So whilst we are still very early on in the life cycles of NFT, I would bet a solid 20p that in a few years' time, as this industry expands and gets out of what is beginning to seem like a never-ending bear market, and when things pick up and the whole industry sort of evolves, that the Nouns will have cemented themselves as a real iconic project that sort of laid a path for which many innovative projects in the future will certainly follow. So, Matt, the Nouns DAO. When did you hear about the Nouns DAO and what the hell is it?
So I actually can't remember specifically when I first heard of it. It was a while back now, and I think I first heard reference to it through a different podcast. But it was at NFT London when I was properly
intrigued
and introduced to the Nouns NFT project and Nouns DAO in particular. And that was because in one of the rooms where they were doing some of the talks, one of the guys emceeing that room was a Nouns holder and had the Nouns glasses on.
Easily identifiable with those glasses.
Very easily identifiable. I'm sorry for the audio only listeners. Not that I'm showing you anything on screen, but you're going to have to Google Nouns and you'll see there is one common trait that is, I think it's the only consistent trait throughout all of the Nouns, which is these glasses, the square glasses. What did they call them? Noggles or something?
Yeah, Noggles.
Noggles, I think. So, which we were told not to Google, which I actually haven't Googled. If I've just offended anyone, I apologize. It's not what I meant to do. I don't know what it means, but that's what they call these square glasses that all of the Nouns characters are wearing. And so this guy had them on. Actually, quite a few people in the room had them on because I think we went to a Nouns talk, didn't we? I think so. All the panel had these square Noun glasses on. And first of all, taken back by the just sheer joy and enthusiasm and proper raving fan culture within this group of people that were talking about Nouns. And then I think, like I said, I'd heard of it a little bit before, so I'd done a little bit of research. And one thing I love about the project is it's very similar, and I believe I found out subsequently that it was the inspiration behind one of the projects that we as our Moonshot DAO have got involved with, which is Logan Paul's 99 Originals project. And the similarity is that the NFTs are minted through a daily auction. When we got our 99's original, for example, that happened for 99 days, and one NFT went on auction every day, and it's a 24-hour auction, so it starts, you can make a bid at any one time, you connect your wallet, you choose what to bid, but it's obviously a public auction, so you can see what you're up against. The beautiful thing of the blockchain and how it all works is you can actually also click into that person's wallet to see how much ETH they've got left, which makes an auction
whole new dimension on bidding, right? You can literally see exactly what people have in their wallets, which is great when you've got a bit more than them, but when you jump in and they're stacking hundreds and hundreds of ETH, a little bit depressing, but at least you've lost before you've already begun, right?
Exactly. That's when you think, oh, okay, I'm going to give up on today's auction. Let's hope this person's going to get it so that they're not trying to win tomorrow's auction and we'll stand more chance. And yeah, so I remember very fondly going through that process because it was an exciting process, as I'm sure you'll agree, Elliot, that like when we bid on those originals NFTs, especially as it was coming close to the countdown time is going, and then the way that worked. And I don't think it's the same on, no, it can't be the same on Nouns. The way it worked on 99's original was any last minute bids within the last 15 minutes, if someone bid higher than you, then it extended the clock for 15 minutes, right? And so actually that was exciting, that you could make the highest bid, but then someone could bid more than you, and then it would extend the time by 15 minutes, and obviously that would give you a chance to increase your bid and blah, blah, blah.
Not sure how I felt about that mechanism, because I can see why. On one hand, it makes it fair, because if you did get sniped with 1 second to go, you have another chance. But then at the same time, the point of these auctions is you want to snipe people to a degree, and every time it reset to 15 minutes, my God, when you're in an intense bid battle, it just seemed like an eternity. And so that was definitely, maybe 5 minutes, maybe even 2 minutes. I think the 15 minutes was definitely a good ploy as the creator of a project to allow people plenty of time to bid extra, which is no doubt why they do it. But yeah, I would have shortened that
I completely agree. I think also, though, if you remember, the time lag on any kind of blockchain transaction, in that stressful point at which you're trying to make a bid, and let's face it, any people listening that have actually done a few transactions, it can feel like an eternity as you're sat there waiting for the MetaMask thing to pop up to say transaction successful, and it's not 15 minutes, but I think that actually gave a bit of a cushion that you had a bit of faith it might actually go through. But anyway, it was an exciting part of that process, and apparently the Noun project was the inspiration. So I've subsequently heard that was the inspiration for Logan Paul deciding that was what he was going to do. So the Nouns works in exactly the same way. So it's unlike the CryptoPunks, the Bored Apes, the many Cool Cats Doodles, all the World of Women relatively famous NFT projects, which came out the gate with 10,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 in some Series 2 collections. If we compare specifically to CryptoPunks, there were always going to be 10,000 from day one. And once those 10,000 got minted, that was the collection. Nouns works in a very different way. And that is literally one every day forever. So we're currently at the time of recording, we're currently at, actually my research is about 2 days ago, we're currently at 540 something, actually must be over 550 now, I would assume. So yeah, 550 Nouns NFTs, and there'll be another one gone today, and another one gone tomorrow, and another one the next day,
so forever.
And forever, which I think is exciting and intriguing. And one of the sort of things that I had to do the maths on, because I just think it's interesting, is how long is it going to take before it gets to the same sort of 10,000 collection size as CryptoPunks or as Bored Ape Yacht Club and all that sort of stuff. And I've lost my note at the moment. I can't even find how long it's going to be, but it's years and years. I think it's something like 27 years, if I'm remembering correctly. Where even is that? Anyway, you could do the maths. So 10,000 divided by 365. So whatever that is, I'm sure it's a very long time. 27.4, there we go. So yeah, 27 years worth of daily auction to get them to the same point as having 10,000 of these in the marketplace, which is so different from how other projects have done it, which just makes it fascinating. But that's just one aspect of it, I think, and not even that's just a fun aspect. It's what I like is it's very similar to the whole 99's original project that we were part of and still are part of. So I like that, but it's, that's an insignificant part, if you like. One of the most important things is the Nouns DAO. So all of the money from these daily auctions goes into the treasury, and this treasury is used for so much stuff. Again, at the time of recording this, there is, rapidly
28,493 Ethereum in the treasury.
Yeah, nice. Which I think was 30-something million.
It's in that region, yeah. So if we're at 14... Yeah, we're $39 million ish in the treasury at the moment. In this ridiculously down-priced market at the moment as well, which is very interesting. So a whole big load of ETH, which is very interesting. And so how does the Nouns DAO function? What actually happens with the treasury?
Yeah, so the way it works is anyone that has as well. So there are proposals going into the Nouns DAO on a very regular basis, and in order to make a proposal, you have to hold 2 nouns, as I understand it. But you can make a proposal for to use that money really for anything. And the examples that I've got are really far-reaching, which is one of the interesting things that there's a video on the Nouns Twitter feed or Twitter profile, which I'd highly recommend people to watch. But the sort of strapline and the message is that nouns fund ideas. And the more nouns that are born, the more funds there are in the treasury. And then the more people in the community, because of course more people are buying them, which leads to more ideas which are proposed, and then more ideas that are funded by nouns. So it's like this cycle of stuff happening, really good things as well, and a real mixture of things that we'll come on to as a few examples, but interesting, thoughtful, sometimes philanthropic, really helpful, good ideas. And it's all being funded by this fund, this treasury of money that, of course, the holders have paid in order to own a noun. But it's this beautiful cycle of stuff happening because of this Nouns DAO.
It's great. It's great. And so it's fascinating how this came to life, right? Because I believe the story goes that one of prominent NFT user, Punk4156, his Twitter name, basically posted out a sequence of tweets outlining this idea that he had for this DAO many moons ago now. And it got quite a bit of interest and began to outline this framework on Twitter even more. And trust in the power of crypto Twitter, I think it ended up being a group of 10 individuals, including some pretty notable artists, much like Gremplin, who of course collaborated with Proof on the Moonbirds Oddities, which of course the Moonshot DAO holds one as well, and his original project Cryptodes, which has been quite popular as well, came together and built out the framework for what became the Nouns DAO. And just having a look at these online, and I encourage everyone to check them out. They're very much similar art style to the CryptoPunks, be it it's pixel art, very simple, and the notable characteristic is the Nouns glasses that they all have. And then it's basically these little characters which also serve as a sort of profile picture, but they just have a different head. The one today has a Bigfoot Yeti as a head. The one yesterday had a flamingo. The day before, I think it was a Game Boy, a black hole, a cat, a monkey, whatever it might be. They all have these unique heads which serves as the defining trait. And then, of course, that noun is not only your profile picture, but it's your gateway into the Nouns DAO. And it's just a very interesting system where they decided to, instead of creating all 10,000 at once and putting them on a marketplace or allowing people to mint, they took for this drip feed flow where only once a day will one of these release. And as we said, it's going to be decades before we get anywhere near the level of 10,000, which I think in hindsight has been very clever, because as we see with the life cycles of most NFT projects, particularly all the ones that have basically gone to zero now, is that they stir up a big bubble of hype, and because they are normally reliant on some roadmap or some promises in order to be successful in the long run, they use the initial mint of selling the initial group of NFTs to raise money. And then once they've done the mint, people have got the pictures, their NFTs. Some are really pleased because they got some rare ones, some are disappointed, and the founders now have the funds to hopefully build out their roadmap, which you're building anything in a new technology space, Web3 space, is likely going to take a while before it's particularly good. And so you see this hype just come in a big wave, and then a week after it's minted out, it's like diminished, right? And as a result, when you have hard times like this, when people's hype and vibes drift away due to negative market sentiment and all that jazz, it's the reason why a lot of NFT projects basically go under. It's why they get rug pulled. It's because the people run out of leeway, run out of runway to actually build their projects. Whereas Nouns have flipped this on its head in what is quite a unique model, because there's only one opportunity to get one every single day. And as a result, we're only 550 days in or whatever it might be. But the continued growth in attention is like nice and steady and slow, rather than being a big up and then crashing down. It's on like a very nice, steady trajectory, which is fascinating. And that's been a big reason why each day these nouns are going for 30, 40, 50, 100 plus Ethereum, and why they're sat on a treasury now full with like nearly $40 million, which they can deploy based on any way in which the owners of these nouns decide to deploy. Like, it's just a fascinating sort of social experiment almost in how it's possible to use new technology like this to actually create a project that can gather traction nice and steadily to the point where it's raised 40 million. You can 5x that if the bull market resumes as well and the price of Ethereum goes up. So you could be staring down the barrel of literally a 10-figure treasury, which they have the freedom to invest in whatever they see fit. And when we were at NFT London, Matt, you'll remember, I believe his name was Gami, shout out to him, who was a Nouns holder, and I'm going to not do his project justice, but he had been the recipient of a grant from the Nouns DAO Treasury for his proposal, which was something to do with, I want to say skateboarding. Do you remember, Matt?
It was definitely something to do with skateboarding. That I can concur. Any more detail than that, and I'm at a loss. But it is all over his Twitter. So yeah, GAM. If you were just to search Gami Nouns on Twitter, you'll find him, and then you'll read all about it.
What a great story. Simple. Put forward a proposal for a good idea. Goes to vote. All of the fellow Nouners loved it. Next thing you know, he's the recipient of a 6-figure sum, I believe it was, and he's able to now begin the project in real life, totally funded by just this group of cool individuals. Like, it's a whole new aspect and avenue of people being able to generate the funding for cool and innovative projects that sit outside of your regular financial system. So how hard would it be to get a loan to fund some crazy skateboarding event now from the banks in the situation we're in? It's going to be bloody tough, right? Interest rate hikes, you're in for an absolute nightmare. But if you can, it's just an epic social experiment that proves that, to a degree, a group of people can get together, leverage this technology to create this community, which also functions as this sort of treasury and voting mechanism, and can allow people at this scale to build cool and creative things. I think it's very awesome.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the things that, for anyone who, anyone with good ideas, anyone that wants to do something, there's an opportunity here, a really significant opportunity. Because Nouns also works on the zero kind of copyright IP system. So we've talked about that in a few previous episodes in relation to the fact that, so just as a comparison, so with your CryptoPunk or Bored Ape Yacht Club or World of Women NFT, you own the IP, so you can stick that image on a bottle of homebrew and sell your own beer, for example. So like you could make your own World of Women brew, and of course use the power of the community, and there's your customer base from day one. Nouns, a bit like the Moonbirds that we've talked about, that project that you're involved with, Elliott. Anyone can do anything with them. So anyone can use the image with those square glasses on and immediately benefit from the association of the Nouns NFT project. The benefit to the Nouns project, of course, being awareness, and the fact that happens, whatever people create, more people know about it, and of course link it back to the project, which I guess when you start off in this way, when you're only adding one new holder a day, I think that's an important thing, because take apes or punks or any collection of 10,000, there will be more than 5,000 people who hold one of them. So it's a big community. The community of Nouns holders at the moment is owners 321. So only 321 people in the world own a Nouns NFT, which exactly makes it very exclusive. That's another thing I really like about it, because you couldn't be known in a group of 320. You can make yourself known. You can get to know people. You can, 1 in 300 and something is more significant than 1 in 6,000.
Very true. I think it also proposes an interesting challenge, Matt. Sorry to jump in there. But the exclusivity, one thing is staring me right in the face, is that currently, if I want to join the Nouns, I've got to strum up 37 Ethereum, which even at the moment is $40,000. So a very high barrier to entry, because of the nature of the auction and because of the small number of tokens. So, as an avid Noun fan, urging to get involved, what could I do if I just don't have that much money?
I'm in that position because I'd love to be in the Nouns community and a Nouns holder, but I sadly, and I don't expect too much sympathy, but sadly do not just have a spare 36, 37 ETH to drop on one of these. But there are little nouns, which is one thing I think is interesting because it's an associated project. Yeah, little nouns, or LIL nouns as the website is. So lilnouns.wtf. They are exactly what they sound like. They are nouns, but slightly smaller, and there's lots more of them. So they auction every 15 minutes. The value is much less. They are linked so the treasuries are linked, and the DAO's linked to that sort of stuff. It's well worth doing your own research on that. But I think it is a way to start to communicate with the nouns community, and that is one thing I'm certainly considering, and I think that would be a good way in for anyone that doesn't want to stump up the best part of sort of £40,000 to become a nouns holder.
100%.
I think just while we're on this subject, I think we should just cover a few stats because it's a little bit remiss of us if we don't. So first of all, anyone intrigued by the sort of auction, the daily auction setup and how it all works, Nouns, so nouns.wtf is the website. So go to nouns.wtf. That's the homepage, and you will see the current day's auction. For the moment, time recording, I'm looking at Noun 551. There's 8 hours, 50 minutes left in this auction, and the current bid is 30.5 Ethereum. And go there, take a look. You'll see how it all works. As Elliott says, obviously they are available on the secondary market. So on OpenSea, so OpenSea.io, as we've talked about before, if you find the Nouns project, and there are 552 items, the floor price is 35.9 pretty much Ethereum at the moment. That's where you'll see that there's 321 owners, and so you can see what they're selling for on the secondary market. 4 days ago, Nouns 64 sold for 62 ETH, which is intriguing because that person must have specifically wanted that noun because they could have won the auction yesterday or the day before for like 30 ETH or 35.
Yeah, because of the nature of the nouns heads being very iconic things like a Bigfoot Yeti, like a pretzel, like a paperclip, whatever it might be. The value of them, whilst there's no specific rarities like with other collections, because all of the art is just totally randomly generated, so the rarities will only be determined by this random algorithm as the nouns mint out over the next forever. And because these cool heads will eventually strum along, a lot of people attach different values to them. Point in picture here, Bud Light bought a noun, and they bought the noun that had the beer as its head. And so I believe that actually was a bit of a swap where that Bud Light, the beer noun, was sold for 120 ETH in that region and given to Bud Light. And in exchange, the noun glasses, the Noggles, as we call them, were actually featured in Budweiser's 2022 Super Bowl commercial, which is pretty cool. And Bud Light changed their Twitter profile picture to their newly acquired beer-headed noun, which is a very cool story.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're still, as we learned from a post shared on LinkedIn of all places the other day, they're still active in the Nouns community. So they have voted on every single one of the proposals since getting involved, which I thought was pretty impressive from a commercial entity of their size.
100%. Did you say it was Noun 64 that went for 62 ETH?
It was, yeah, Noun 64.
Yeah. So that's the one with the moon head, Matt. We could have done with that for the Moonshot NFT Podcast.
True. Very true.
No wonder it went for a high price.
No wonder. To the moon. It wasn't you, no? You didn't get it.
No, that was me, unfortunately. Wish I had that at my sleeve to reveal now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so people are, in this market, that's now 64, one of the earlier ones. Several months ago, that would have been double that, I'm quite sure. So I'm confident that person is pleased and happy that they've essentially picked up a bargain there. But this is a high-profile project. We're not sharing it just to make you feel bad that perhaps you can't get involved with this. We're not involved in it either. The reason that we're sharing this is, first of all, it's a very interesting project, and one that if you're interested in NFTs and how it works, this is just so different from previous projects that we've talked about. And therefore, if you are trying to do your own research, do your own sort of 50 hours of research on NFTs, as Gary Vee always suggests, is the absolute minimum that people should do before jumping in, then this is just such an interesting project to look at. And then also, particularly because of what they've done, what they've voted for, what they've used the Treasury fund for. Like, whenever then, if you get involved and people start saying to you bad things about NFTs or it's all a waste of money and a fad and all this sort of stuff, then being able to point out that, let me just use this example, being able to point out that 100 ETH was used, voted on, vote number 42, 100 ETH was used for emergency humanitarian assistance in Ukraine with UNICEF. So that was like given to help the transporting of safe water to conflict-affected areas. And there's good stuff happening with the money. And really, just as another example...
significant amounts of money as well, right?
Yeah, that was many months ago. But 100 ETH even now, £100,000. And at the time, it would have been closer to double that. So, like, it's big money that they didn't have to donate. Like, it's just someone proposed it. Everyone agreed with it, or the majority agreed with it. But I think on that one, actually looking at the vote, I'm pretty sure everyone did agree with it. And it was gifted from the Treasury. Very different, bizarre example is that the Nouns, a breed of frog was named after them. So this is something that you'll find on Twitter if you research for enough hours as I did. So there is now a frog called the Nouns glass frog. Which
has been officially named that.
Officially named and included in that transaction, they donated $114,000 to the Rainforest Trust. There's a video on Twitter that if you care enough to have a Google, it's very interesting. And again, just fascinating that there's this new species of frog, officially named Nouns glass frog. But I'm mostly sharing details of that because of this huge donation to a good cause.
That's great. So that frog, its official name is the Hyalinobatrachium nouns, also known as the Nouns
I love
frog.
You just tried to say that.
So that's funny. So
I've seen that word written down.
Frog actually had nouns in its name anyway.
Yeah, I was never going to try and pronounce that.
They're only in Western Ecuador, so we'll have a bit of a trip to go to find them.
Quite. But let's give another example, which is slightly more, slightly more normal than naming a new species of frog. Nouns coffee. Everyone knows what coffee is, I'm assuming. Apologies, tea drinkers. So that's been created by a team with a background in the global coffee industry. The Nouns coffee proposal secured a 105 ETH fund from the Treasury to create the first ever Nounish consumable brand and place it in cafes and grocery stores. I'm assuming this is in America, but that is an assumption. Might be wrong. I've not seen it in any shops, but then I try not to go in shops. It's out there somewhere. Nouns coffee is available on the market. And just think about that for a second. Someone or a group of people in the coffee industry wanted to start their own business and make their own coffee. And I'm sure this happens on a regular basis, but getting a funding of, I don't know when this was, but even if it was right now, 105 Ethereum, so let's say £105,000 to start that brand new business. Like, how difficult would that be? Where are you going to get that money from? You go to a bank with a proposal to start up your own coffee. I think that's a challenge. And there's lots of hoops to jump through. And I think and I'm not saying it was easy for them to get the proposal through, but actually looking through some of these proposals, and you can also find them so you can have a read of them yourself. If you go to the nouns.wtf website, you'll navigate your way through to where the proposals are. And then you can look back over them. I'm looking at the current page. There's like proposal number 196 they're on at the moment. Starts in a day's time. So there's 196 proposals, most of which have been executed on. Like, looking down through the list, there's not many that were defeated, as they're called. And so a lot of people have I assume, got some people on their side, rallied the troops, whatever they have to do, and then they've got the money that they've asked for, which is exciting because I still feel that's a pretty rare scenario where you can go to a group of people or a big fund, present an idea and get a yes, and then get the money. So I think from that perspective, it's very exciting. I think one final example, and we heard about this at NFT London because the girl or lady that presented this proposal was talking on stage. Nouns, there's this big rose parade in California on New Year's Day. Yeah. And Nouns will be, so some people, I forget how many there are, but there will be people dressed as Nouns taking part in this parade, to raise awareness for nouns and reach just a huge number of people that obviously the majority of which won't have heard of nouns at all. And so they received 62 ETH, call it £62,000, to be able to fund.
That's
and
great.
They
the Rose Parade,
yeah,
also known as the Tournament of Roses Parade, is an annual parade held mostly along the Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, California. Looks pretty epic.
Yeah, and like they didn't get any votes against, 208 votes for. This is proposal number 166. If you find your way onto the and the end result, according to them, being to help nouns reach an audience of over 38 million people nationwide. And so obviously the community, the nouns holders, the Nouns DAO members have decided that is good use of £60,000 worth of their fund to increase awareness. And what a great project to be part of. Like, again, how else would you receive 60 grand to go and do something like that? I just think if you've got ideas, this is a place to go and perhaps a community to be part of. Because, of course, the other thing is, going back to the question of how do you get involved, and perhaps you don't have 35 to 40,000 pounds to buy one. There are already 320 holders that you could befriend, and if someone's got two, they can just put the proposal in for you. Like, there are ways if you want to make it happen. But
yeah, I remember someone talking about at NFT London that there's a setup where you can go to someone who holds a noun with your proposal, and they will literally give you their noun to basically use in the proposal. Not give you it, but put the proposal in for you, as you've just discussed. That's a very common thing already that's happened quite a lot for people who obviously can't afford to get in, have a good proposal for the Treasury, is connecting with people in the nouns community, joining the Discord, whatever it might be, connecting on Twitter, having a good conversation, and then proposing to them, who can then propose to the Treasury. So, you know, that Treasury is by no means restricted to the holders. In fact, the person speaking at NFT London had done precisely that for this parade that you just talked about. That was, she does not own a noun, but she befriended a noun holder and got it pushed in, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think if you think about it, if you take a step back and look at the bigger, there's a fund here of, even in this terrible market right now, of nearly $40 million, and rewind 9 months ago, that would have been closer to $100 million. And so it's an opportunity. And of course, the holders and the community nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to grow, nothing's going to get better for them if it's not used for anything. So it's in everyone's interest to fund ideas. And that's what I love about this whole sort of thesis of, well, present your good ideas. And I think it's why the majority, if you look down that list of nearly 200 proposals, so many of them, by far the majority, have all been executed on. And I'm sat here just wishing I had some good ideas, because I now know where to go with them.
And it is interesting you say that, because a big problem or a big struggle that's been a bit of an endemic within the NFT world is the ability to execute. It's why at the moment 99% of projects are worth nothing, because they were founded by teams who did not know how to execute, and they raised an initial bit of cash and then failed to deploy it in any meaningful way that continued to make their project valuable. Whereas with nouns, the nature of it, how they built up this treasury, how they've curated this community, and how they're executing on these proposals. Like you said, they're on proposal 160 or whatever it is, not one or two. They're getting through this with speed, they're handing out funds, they're making things happen in the real world, which is, again, pretty rare for NFTs at this stage, where pretty much all the use cases that we have seen at the moment have taken place online, with the promise of lots of other things in the real world, lots of interactive metaverses and all this jazz. But really, we yet to see it, whereas nouns is quite discreetly, because they're not like... It took us a while to really figure out about nouns, despite being in the NFT community for a while. But like, they've secretly just been plowing along, raising $40 million and deploying it in all of these interesting little avenues and projects across like this diverse range of sectors, industries, hobbies, whatever it might be. And they're doing stuff, which is epic, and definitely what I think is enabling it to lead a charge and sustain this value even during the pits of a pretty rough bear market like we're seeing now. Yeah, going to be interesting to see how this unfolds as the community's only growing, right? They're still going for flipping 40k each day, and NFT volume is super low at the moment still. Beginning to pick back up now, which is good. But again, miles off where it once was. So I wonder, in a couple years' time, how the Nouns treasury is going to look and how things are holding out. Because if I had to bet a pretty penny on it, then I would imagine it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think that that's the other good thing about the fact that it is a daily transaction, because a lot of what you read, negativity around even the big projects like Bored Ape Yacht Club right now, it's because they go quiet, or they get a few minutes go by or weeks go by and people are like, is it dead because nothing's happened? Of course, the reality is, like, that's going to happen in some projects, especially in this current market. They can't release a new thing every single week or every month.
Building takes time, right?
Of course, but the great thing with this Nouns is it's an auction every day. Something's happening every day, which means there's always this kind of excitement, albeit maybe a smaller. There's something going on every day. And actually, even though it's a smaller group of holders, the community in their Discord, I noticed, is still something like 18,000 people in the Nouns Discord or something like that. There's a lot of people that are aware of it. They might not hold it, but they're aware of the project, and I'm sure, a bit like us, they're probably sat there wishing that they were going for 3 ETH, and so they could buy one rather than 50.
100%. Yeah. So what should people do, Matt, if they want to find out a bit more about Nouns?
So first thing I would do is go to nouns.wtf. I would have a proper look around. I'd look through some of the traits and look at some of the nouns because they're fun and interesting. I think I'd look at some of the proposals. So go to the proposals page and just see where they've spent some of their money and be inspired by, and make your own decision on whether it's a project or collection and a group of like-minded people or people that are interested in the same sort of thing that you are. Perhaps they're investing in things that you just think is a waste of time and therefore maybe it's not for you. But there's a real selection of things here that they've spent money on that I think, I'd be surprised if the majority of people are not impressed and intrigued by what they're doing. So I'd go and have a look there. I would absolutely follow some nouns holders on Twitter, and they do stand out again because of the image that they use, their profile picture. And I would follow some of them to make connections. I would look at Little Nouns and I'd take a closer look into how the two projects are linked to see if you think it's worth a couple of £100. It's literally, you could buy one for 200 quid at the moment, and then you're in the ecosystem and can therefore find out more and delve in deeper to see if it's for you. And then I'd do exactly what I'm going to do, which is follow them. Follow along, see what else people propose, and see what gets approved. Because now that I'm looking regularly, I haven't done 50 hours of research on Nouns, probably about close to 5 at this stage. It's fascinating once you start looking. People are proposing some weird and wonderful things. A recent one that I think closes quite soon is something to do with a restoration of a basketball court, which looked a bit like that. That's interesting. I don't know. Proposal 193. Oh, it looks as though it's going to go ahead. 120 people have voted for it. 45 have voted against it. Yeah, fascinating. And I don't know, perhaps there's something significant about this basketball court, but they're asking for a total of $282,000. Plus one noun. So that's a big project. And it looks as though they're gonna get what they want. So like I say, fascinating, interesting. Go and have a look. It's an interesting project, which I think that after a little bit of digging around online, hopefully you'll be pleased that we brought it to your attention and one to watch for the future, because I think as far as long-term projects go, the great thing about this one is they've been clear from the start. This is happening every day. Forever. Watch this space.
Exactly. And no rush to immediately dive in. Although it's going to be interesting to see how the price of these fares over the next few years. One would imagine as the supply increases, technically the price should decrease. But will the growing audience and hype and speculation outpace that at which the supply increases? So actually they'll just continue to get more expensive? I can see that happening. I hope it doesn't happen. So we'll be able to hopefully have an opportunity to get in at some point. But there we are. Time will tell. We'll see what other projects these guys get involved with. And I'm excited to see what happens when the bull market resumes and price of ETH jumps up and all of a sudden that 40 million transforms into a significantly heftier sum. There you have it, Matt. That has been a fascinating episode all around the wonderful nouns. Thank you ever so much for your time. Any closing remarks?
Thank you. No, enjoyed it. Only that it's on my list. I absolutely want one. It won't happen anytime soon as far as I can tell. But I think it should be on the DAO's list, on the Moonshot DAO's list, because it's an exciting project, one that could serve us well in the future, especially if we can get in before that bull market returns. It would be I think, a real opportunity. And so a very interesting one to keep an eye on. And just, yet more fascinating things happening in the world of NFTs. So well worth looking into.
Love it. Love it. Thanks so much, Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to share, subscribe, do whatever makes you feel good inside. As always, it's been Elliott and Matt, the Moonshot NFT Podcast, wishing you all a very Merry Christmas, as when we come back, it will be after Christmas. And so take it easy, Matt. Have a wonderful time. And ladies and gentlemen, to the moon.